Let's reset it with some positivity from a high achiever, Meghan herself, a prolific investor in other female businesses, and now an Emmy-nominated content producer. And I could not be happier for her and all the royalists that are going to be looking at this and crying into their tea. So Meghan's tie-up, her business partnership with Netflix, including the As Ever brand, has been nominated under Outstanding Lifestyle Programs for an Emmy. And I've got to say, all the royalists will be going nuts. So will Kensington Palace, saying this isn't an achievement, whilst forgetting to remember that they themselves have never been nominated for an Emmy. I haven't. This is a massive achievement for Meghan, Meghan's businesses, and all the crew at Netflix and all her guests, which made this show so attractive, entertaining, magnetic, joyous, joyful, homely, however you want to describe it. Well done, Meghan.
Congratulations are in order for Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. I am so proud to see With Love Meghan earned a Daytime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Lifestyle Program. This recognition is well deserved, and I couldn't be happier for her. This wasn't just another television show. It was a passion project centered around creativity, hospitality, food, friendship, and finding joy in everyday moments. Meghan invited viewers into her world with authenticity, intention, and incredible attention to detail. That deserves to be celebrated. The people who appreciated this show from day one understood the level of taste required. They recognized the craftsmanship, the warmth, the storytelling, and the elegance woven into every episode. In other words, people who saw its greatness are the people who understood the assignment. For everyone who dismissed the series, the Television Academy just delivered its own response. An Emmy nomination. An Emmy nomination isn't just handed out because of deranger and tabloid opinions. It's earned through the work and the quality. I couldn't be happier for Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, the entire creative team, and everyone who helped bring With Love Meghan to life. It's always satisfying to see hard work, vision, and perseverance recognized. Congratulations on an incredible achievement. Here's hoping this is a first of many. Squatties, how good does it feel to see Meghan finally getting the recognition she's earned? And that's the read.
Unrelatable. No, Meghan Sussex, Duchess of Sussex, is very relatable, especially to Black women, because all she's doing is existing, enjoying what she loves, and living unapologetically. Basically, just minding her Black biracial business. It may surprise you to learn that many of us Black women at the 92% deal with that every single day. And as usual, the loudest, the nastiest, and the most vitriolic voices in the room belong to white women, royalist weirdos, and derangers that can't stand the fact that they cannot be her. Think what they really can't stand is that she has already reached the apotheosis of their wildest dream. Meghan looked around, saw that it was unhealthy and toxic. She rejected it and has since carved out a space for herself happily. So, can we all just be real now and admit that this is not, nor has it ever been, about the show? This is about the fact that Meghan gets to live in that soft, luxurious, Nancy Myers-coded life while still being Black, while still having ties to British nobility and royal family. Oh my gosh, and the best part, the people who hate her the most, the UK media, royalist stands, Bethany Frankel. Y'all are literally putting coins directly into her pocket. Do y'all know that y'all actually hate-watched Netflix into greenlighting the second series of her show? Well done. See, I say Meghan is showing us exactly what we, the 92%, ought to be doing. Living in our full authenticity, making the most of what we have, and refusing to shrink ourselves for anyone else's comfort. She is proof that seeking joy, enjoying her prosperity, and existing without apologizing, that's the real rebellion. So I'm making the honey lemon friendship cake. I'm pouring myself a glass of something sparkling, and I am stepping into my exploration of the domestic arts.
Wow, squaddies. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Miles. Today, we have some absolutely massive news to break down. Meghan Sussex has officially been nominated for an Emmy Award. This is an incredible achievement, but as you can probably guess, the UK tabloids are already spinning themselves into a frenzy trying to downplay it. Today, we're looking at why this nomination is such a well-deserved win and exposing the media's desperate double standards. Let's jump right in. can we have a little moment of silence for everybody who spent the last few months saying Meghan was finished? Because woof, this one landed like a bucket of cold water. Nobody, and I mean nobody, had this on their bingo card. With Love, Meghan has just earned a Daytime Emmy nomination. Read that again, an Emmy nomination, not a trending hashtag, not another social media argument, not another headline built around drama, a real nomination from people who actually work in television. And that's exactly why this hits differently. See, you don't have to win the award for people to realize something has changed. The nomination alone tells you the show wasn't ignored. It wasn't laughed out of the room. It wasn't treated like some joke that everyone predicted it would be. The television industry looked at it and said, this belongs in the conversation. Now compare that with everything we've been hearing for years, months, and past days. Remember all those headlines? Nobody will watch. It's going to flop. Her career is over. Every other week, somebody was acting like they had already written the obituary for the show before a single episode had a chance to breathe. Some folks were celebrating way too early. It's like talking trash before the fourth quarter, then watching the other team walk away with the trophy. Awkward. And here's the funny part. The same people who couldn't wait to bury this project are now stuck talking about an Emmy nomination. That's got to sting just a little. Imagine spending months saying a restaurant would shut down, then finding out it just got a Michelin star. I probably log off for a week. This is why regular people pay attention to moments like this. We've all seen someone get written off before they've even had a fair shot. It happens at work. It happens in business. It happens in families. Somebody decides you're going to fail, and suddenly everyone starts acting like it's already happened. Then life throws a plot twist. That's why this story connects with so many people. It isn't just about one television show. It's about proving that loud opinions don't automatically become facts. People can spend months shouting on the internet, but at the end of the day, the people handing out Emmy nominations aren't scrolling from comment sections looking for instructions. They watch the work. And now those predictions don't look nearly as clever as they did a few months ago. So here's the question that makes this even more interesting. If this nomination has already turned the conversation upside down, what happens if this is only the beginning? Because something tells me the people who are busy planning Meghan's downfall weren't expecting to wake up to 2 words attached to her name forever. Emmy-nominated Meghan Sussex. Now that's one headline they can't pretend they didn't see. Now, squaddies, can we talk about the prediction business for a second? Because some folks were sounding less like commentators and more like fortune tellers who forgot to charge their crystal ball. Seriously, before the show even had a chance to settle in, the verdict was already in. Some newspaper columns had practically written the goodbye speech. Certain TV pundits were acting like the credits had already rolled. And don't even get me started on a few YouTubers. You would have thought they had a backstage pass to the future with the way they kept saying, "This is over, nobody cares, pack it up." Well, that future never showed up. That's the problem with making bold predictions instead of waiting for real results. You end up arguing with reality, and reality usually wins. Think about it. They weren't just saying the show might struggle. No. They spoke with full confidence, like there wasn't even another possibility. They talked as if failure was guaranteed. Then came the Emmy nomination, and just like that, the conversation changed. Now here's the part that makes me laugh. Nobody has to like the show. That's called having an opinion. Fair enough. But once an official Emmy nomination enters the chat, we're no longer talking about random opinions floating around social media. We're talking about recognition from professionals in the television industry. That's a completely different ballgame. Suddenly, those old headlines don't hit the same. Those dramatic thumbnails, looking a little dusty. Those confident speeches about the show's collapse, they're aging like milk left on the dashboard in the middle of July. You know what this reminds me of? That one guy in the neighborhood who laughs when somebody opens a new business. Give it 6 months, he says. Then a year later, he's standing in the same line trying to buy from the place he said would never survive. We've all met that guy. That's why regular people understand this story so well. Most of us have had someone look us dead in the face and tell us our idea wouldn't work. Your business won't last, your promotion isn't happening, your dream is too big. You hear it enough and eventually you either quit or you keep going until the results do the talking. This time, the results answered first. And here's the funniest twist of all. The same commentators who were so eager to predict disaster now have to report on an Emmy nomination. They may spin it, they may downplay it, they may add a dozen buts to the sentence, but they still have to say the words. That's the part nobody saw coming. Turns out making loud predictions is easy. Living with them after they fall apart, that's the difficult bit.
Now, Squiddies, let me ask you something. What do people actually want after spending all day dealing with traffic, bills, work stress, family drama, and 24-hour breaking news? More chaos? Probably not. Sometimes people just want to kick their shoes off, grab a snack, and watch something that doesn't raise their blood pressure every 5 minutes. I honestly think that's where With Love Meghan found its lane. Look at how the show was put together. Nothing felt rushed. The camera wasn't flying around like somebody had drunk 6 cups of coffee. The shots were smooth, the lighting was soft, everything looked warm and welcoming. You almost felt like somebody had invited you over for the weekend instead of trying to sell you something. That's not an accident. That takes planning. It takes people behind the scenes who know exactly how to make viewers feel comfortable before a single word is spoken. And then there's the storytelling. Nobody was shouting. Nobody was flipping tables. Nobody was creating fake arguments just to get clips on social media. The show moved at its own pace. It let conversations breathe. 1 minute you're talking about food. The next you're in the garden. Then you're setting a table, chatting with friends, sharing ideas, laughing over little mistakes that happen in every kitchen. It felt normal. And believe it or not, normal is becoming pretty rare these days. Everything on television doesn't have to be a screaming match. Sometimes people enjoy watching someone bake bread without 3 dramatic music tracks telling us the loaf might explode. Imagine that. The balance was another thing that stood out. It wasn't just a cooking show. It wasn't just gardening. It wasn't only about entertaining guests. It mixed all those little pieces together in a way that felt like spending time with someone who genuinely enjoys creating a welcoming home. One topic flowed into another without feeling forced, and that kept the whole thing easy to watch. Now, does everybody have to love that style? Of course not. Some people want explosions. Some people want reality TV with drinks flying across the room. Some folks think peace and quiet are overrated. Fair enough. But award voters aren't sitting there asking, did Twitter argue about this today? They're looking at execution. They're looking at presentation. They're looking at whether the people behind the camera actually knew what they were doing. And if we're being honest, the production team clearly put serious work into every episode. From the framing to the editing to the overall flow, it looked polished without feeling stiff. It looked expensive without trying too hard to prove it. That's the difference. An Emmy nomination doesn't happen because people argued online. It happens because professionals watched the finished product and saw something they believed deserved a place in the conversation. This is a level of recognition you can't dismiss with a sarcastic tweet or a clickbait headline. Sometimes good work speaks quietly, and somehow it still manages to get everyone's attention. Now, squaddies, this is where the conversation gets even bigger. Forget the award for a second. Forget the headlines. Look at the journey. A few years ago, there were people absolutely convinced that once Meghan stepped away from royal duties, that was it. Game over. They acted like leaving the monarchy meant leaving success behind. According to them, every project would flop. Every opportunity would disappear, and eventually she'd come crawling back because there was supposedly no life outside the palace. Well, how's that prediction looking today? Because what we're seeing now wasn't handed to her by a royal office. It wasn't arranged through palace staff. Nobody opened a grand palace door and said, here's your Emmy nomination. This came from work done after that chapter closed. That's a completely different conversation. When people hear the word royal, they usually think titles, ceremonies, balconies, and waving to crowds. But television doesn't hand out nominations because someone once lived in a palace. The cameras don't care about your title. The editing room doesn't care about your title. Award voters aren't sitting around saying, well, let's nominate somebody because they're connected to the royal family. That's not how this works. You still have to build something people believe is worth watching. And that's what makes this moment interesting. Instead of spending years arguing about what she walked away from, Meghan spent that time building something new. Different lane, different audience, different goal. That's something regular people understand. Think about somebody who leaves a job everyone says they're crazy to quit. You know the conversations. She'll be back. He'll never make it. They'll regret leaving. We've all heard it before. Then a couple of years later, that same person has started a business, found a new career, or built something nobody expected. Suddenly the people who laughed at them go very quiet. Life has a funny way of doing that. And here's another thing. This nomination isn't saying Meghan is only one thing anymore. She's no longer being talked about only through the lens of royal life. Now she's being discussed as someone producing entertainment that caught the attention of one of television's major awards. That's growth. It's another chapter. The conversation has expanded beyond castles and family drama. Now people are talking about creative projects, production, television, and what's coming next. That's a very different headline. And honestly, that's probably what surprises some people the most, because they expected her story to stop after leaving the royal family. Instead, she picked up a different pen and kept writing. Thanks for watching, squaddies. I'm your host, Miles. Stay blessed, stay unbothered, and if you like your tea hot, you know this is the right place. See you in the next one.